Good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. We got a fabulous night for you. The topic tonight is affordability in Longmont, and we still have people who are at the in the bar area waiting for their pints, and so they'll be coming in. Hi, that's okay. But we decided to keep. These are 2-hour sessions from 6 to 8 o'clock. And they're sponsored by Left Hand Brewery, and I just want to give a shout out to Eric Wallace for providing the space, the great brew, and the opportunity for all of us to come together. So Eric's in the back of the room. Let's give him a hand. Thank you. I'm Mike Butler. I'm one of the co-founders of SOSSAS, the School of Statesmanship, Stewardship, and Service. Along with my partner here, Carol Engel-Enright, we're both co-founders of SOSSAS. And so SOSSAS and our great brewery here has come together to sponsor Pints Perspectives. Again, tonight's topic is affordable Longmont. And so we're going to try to solve affordability in the next 2 hours. Are you with us? All right, great. So with you, we can maybe do that. So we have a great guest speaker that we'll introduce later. But for now, what I'd like to do, and by the way, I just want everybody to know, tonight is being, as every other night, it's being videotaped. And so we have a couple of mics, and so as questions come up, and as things that we want to maybe engage with the speaker, or whoever we're talking to, that's going to be filmed. If anybody has an issue, I think Eric needs to know this. Eric is our chief film guy here from Longmont Public Media. And so they've been here every Thursday night that we've been doing this, and so that's where we've been with that. Anybody have an issue with being on video in terms of what this is about? Okay. The next 2 evenings, the next 2 Thursdays, the next one's on, if I'm not mistaken, Eric is on transportation, if I'm not mistaken. There you go. And then one after that then is how do we surface, activate, and coordinate the immense amount, but perhaps dormant and untapped social capital in our community. That will be our last session. And then the 4 sessions after that will be for those people who are vying for a local election. I don't know how many candidates we have right now that are running for council. I'm thinking somewhere around 14 or 15, but we're going to be inviting all of them, and we will put together a forum. So those will be the last 4 sessions, and you want to attend all of these, but those will be the last 4.
And mayor.
Elected officials is a mayor, and so we have council and elected and mayor, and so you got that straight. And so anyway, we'll have all of them here. And so with that, what I'm going to do to get started, here's how this evening is going to roll. SOSSAS is going to do a little bit of instruction about some of the things that we talk about on a regular basis. And then we're going to introduce our guest speaker. And our guest speaker tonight is going to make it very interactive with you. And so we're going to kind of mix up his presentation and his narrative with some engagement and interaction on your part. And I'll let him speak more to that when he gets up here. So anyway, without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Carol Engel-Enright, and she's going to get us started. Thank you.
All right. So, affordability. Can you hear me? Yeah, we're good? Yes. All right. It's kind of a hot topic, right? And people seem to be, are we living in a divided world? Sometimes, right? So I'm going to walk you through that a little bit, what happens with that, and of course I'm the neuroscience geek. I used to be a fashion designer, but now I like to study the brain and see what happens along relationships and what we can do as a community to kind of get in alignment and partnership with each other. What does it take to respect the other person? And remember, we're perspectives. So here's what I say from a design point of view. The person sitting next to you, I don't care how well you know them, even if they are related to you, they have had different thoughts, they have had different neural patterns, they have had different emotions, they have had different experiences, they have different triggers, they have different neural networks that connect with other networks. And so all of us are truly unique individuals with our perspectives. The person, even if they totally agree with everything you say, they come from a different perspective. So we love to well, he may want to come in. So we're going to talk about respect, and I've worked from, I'm an academic, I'm the geek, but I like this book, The Respect Effect, because it talks about neuro leadership. And I think as we head into some hot topics or things we read about in the media, things we consider, it's really good to kind of watch yourself in terms of what is that sparking up, or how do I agree with that, or how do I get to open my own mind and my own emotions to what somebody might be saying that feels totally different than my perspective. Does that make sense? Right? So we go on respect, we talk about feelings, rights, traditions. We might talk about cultures. We might talk about the other, or other ways of thinking, believing, seeing the world, paradigms. Respect could be really formal. So, in a couple of months we're going to elect some officials. We have respect for those people. We have respect for people who have served or can't. Oh, right there. Okay. This one's better. We want to get to this point, and the reason we're starting with this is so that we practice respect in this room. We practice it during our conversations and our discussions, especially during the small groups, that you open up to listening, that you open up to learning. When we have respect, we have trust, we have safety, and we have well-beingness. Now, do we want that in our community? Yes, for everyone, right? No matter what you think, no matter what you believe. There's something about a moral code and ethics, and it doesn't come naturally. I've been taking care of grandchildren for the last 8 days. I can tell you they don't know respect. They have to be taught how to respect. Where are the boundaries? How you feel, how you work. Now I love this. This is from that book. Starting with tolerance. A lot of us here will just be tolerant of people. Well, that's okay. That's a first step. But when you take the next step of being curious about somebody's point of view or someone's perspective or somebody's situation and going into a discovery process, you become a friend. Have you ever had that? Has anybody ever had that experience? I sat down and talked to somebody I didn't think I would have anything in common with. Ian, I'm going to point you out. He just came back from Africa. He was in the villages in Africa. He didn't think he was going to have anything in common with those people, right? And you found great friendships. Even though they couldn't even speak the same language, he had to learn a whole new language orally. So when you go into that discovery process, you start to relate. I'm going to get a little more into the neuroscience. You not only start to relate, you start to exchange your neurons. And what do you think that could help us do as we start to work on some of these bigger kind of issues around our community? There are people that are not, we're talking about affordability tonight. There are people that aren't feeling included in our community, maybe from an economic point of view, maybe from a cultural point of view, maybe from a social point of view. And so how do we get them to this engagement point, which takes us to this high road? And I love to talk about the high road. I kind of like to talk about it from a quantum place. Anybody study quantum? Yes? Some of you? I don't know it like I'm sure you may know it. When you go to a quantum place, you choose to go into this higher understanding. You choose to elevate yourself. You choose to expand your perspectives. If you stay on the low road, this is the way we've always done it. This is my habit. This is what I've always felt. This is what I was taught to feel. This is my bias. This is my prejudice. We don't go anywhere. We can't expand. When you get on this side of tolerance, you see that avoidance. Has anybody ever had avoidance? Yeah. I have a really good story about it, but I won't tell it now. We just don't have the time. But I was walking in Jim Ham and I saw something I didn't want to see and I turned around and left. Mike Butler decided to go down and engage in a conversation. He stayed connected. It was somebody who was out of luck, right? Somebody we might label. And those are the things that we have to kind of think about as a community. What do we want to be? Do we want to be suspicious, negative, and head into hate? Or do we want to be connected? Just thoughts. These are just thoughts as we go into tonight. And where that comes handy is how many have read emotional intelligence or social intelligence? And this is all, within our SOSSAS framework of classes. When we start to be socially aware of others, when we say, oh, they're having a different experience in life. They see it through a different filter than I see. They have a different lens of what their reality is. We experience that connection. And when we experience that connection, this is my favorite part as a designer, we get creative. So tonight, we have a really special, wonderful guest from Fort Collins and from Colorado State University that's going to take us through a creative process of thinking about affordability in lots of different ways, okay, from lots of different sides. We also get into the relationship. Can you have empathy and a really beautiful, trusting relationship with somebody who believes totally different than you? Yeah? Good. All right, I want you to all practice that tonight and experience that and really kind of dive into that and communicate clearly and collaborate. Mike's going to talk just a little bit about community and how we move into community. So I'm turning it over to him.
Okay. One little housekeeping thing around SOSSAS. And by the way, there's some team members from our project team from SOSSAS here tonight, and they know what I'm talking about. But SOSSAS is very nonpartisan. We try to be non-ideological as well. We can't always be. But we're nonpartisan. We don't endorse candidates. We don't endorse maybe other ballot issues that may have something to do with something social or political, whatever that might be. I just want you to understand that that's not what we're about. We really, if you want to hear more, if you want to know more about what's going on with SOSSAS, you can go to sossas.org and you can read our purpose statement. But it's all about preparing people who want to be leaders, whether in the private sector or the public sector, elected officials or appointed officials, what it really means to have the character, the attributes, the qualities, the skill sets in order to lead in a way where other people just aren't going to follow you. They're going to discover that they have a voice, they're going to discover that they have thoughts that matter, and they're going to really believe their humanness is valued in a way. That doesn't mean, by the way, with those three things that they get their way, but they also know that that's what they're about. And so we come from the perspective, we were going to talk a little bit about that social capital piece, we're going to be talking about it, and that's where it gets really, really important. And for those of you who don't know, my background, I'll just give you a little bit of it. I was the public safety director. I was the public safety chief in this community for about a quarter of a century. I oversaw all of police, all of fire, emergency management services, and a few other social services. And our main way of relating to the community was through partnership. In fact, our motto was policing in partnership, or public safety in partnership with the community. Well, partnership has a lot of attributes attached to it, including joint accountability. Who's responsible for our safety? Is it just the police? Will the number of armed guards in a neighborhood make that the more number we have in terms of armed guards make our neighborhoods safe, or is it the coalescing of our neighborhoods and people coming together and developing a higher level of social capital? I can tell you, for all maybe 40, 50, 60 neighborhoods that we worked with that were considered unsafe, it wasn't the cops that made that neighborhood safe. It was the people within that neighborhood who came together and developed that sense of safety. And to the neighborhood, that's what happened in our community. And so that's how we operated. So anyway, with that, tonight we'll talk more about that at another time. We have another guest. Come on in. Hi, welcome.
You're in the right place.
I don't know if you're here. If you came for the best beer in Colorado, you're in the right place.
Well, I know that already.
Okay, all right. This is Pints Perspectives, okay? So as affordability, here's a question. There's a balancing act with every force that exists. There's lots of forces in our midst. Most of them are hidden, most of them we're not aware of, most of them we don't pay attention to, but there's a lot of forces in our midst. And sometimes we like to get kind of bogged down in our little box of what force we think is important. Well, all of these forces are in our midst. And so the conversation I'm going to have with you, or what I'm going to be saying to you, is about a balancing act here. And so the first question in that balancing act is affordability merely a function of the market economy? Oftentimes we think it might be, in terms of here's what's happening. Here's what's happening with the profit motives are important. Of course they are. People are in business to make a profit. We get that. Dimensions of supply and demand. We all know that the greater the supply is, and the less demand there is, that the prices go down, and vice versa. We know all of those things. We get that. Economic ebbs and flows. Who knows what's going to happen over the next couple of years? Who knows what that's going to look like in terms of the overall economics? By the way, it's not just of our community, it's not just of our region, it's not just of our state, and it's not just of our country. What happens in other parts of the world? Our economy has grown global, and so the ebbs and flows of all of those economies. Disparity in systems, and Carol mentioned some of that a little bit ago. In terms of there is disparity in terms of how people are treated. And maybe it may be by race, culture, ethnicity, or how much money they have or don't have. Those things are all factors. Scarcity and deficiency mindset. That's part of this, in my opinion, that we operate from a scarcity mindset. There's only so much to go around. By the way, I've been told I need to read the book Abundance by Ezra Klein. I haven't read it. But I know about and we all know, many of us know about the continuum between scarcity and abundance and what that looks like. And there might be a purpose for both of them, by the way. It's like we got to choose one over the other. Well, there may be some motives to scarcity that might be healthy for us in terms of how we motivate ourselves, how we go from where we want to be as a human being to something else. Maybe we think we don't have something we need. So I don't want to say that it's all about scarcity or all about abundancy. But in this particular model, sometimes scarcity rules. Efficiency, speed, these are the things that we value sometimes in a profit-oriented market, in a market economy. Efficiency, speed, scale, revenue, volume, profit, competition, convenience. Those are the kind of things that we all look for in terms of flow. Come on in, welcome. And so those are the kind of things we look for. The individual is at the center of attention. And we'll talk a little bit later in another slide here about who else can gain attention in another kind of economy in terms of another way of looking at it. The consumer mindset, that the good life can be purchased, that everything we do can be purchased, anywhere from child care, we're going to talk about housing tonight, but everything that we do is a kind of a consumer mindset. Some people use the word secular, some people use the word materialistic. Some people believe that we're way out of balance in terms of the secularism in our society, in terms of what we're doing, and so, but we can purchase the good life. That's what a lot of people think. So, is there a factor? This is the question. This is just a question. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. It's just a question. Is there a factor of personal responsibility when it comes to your capacity to afford to live anywhere? Is there a factor of personal accountability? Come on in. Hello. Welcome. And so the question is, we're a part of the whole. There's that old phrase that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And by the way, in our school, we teach leaders what that looks like, what we can do to take all the parts that you have that are in your midst and help them find a way to integrate their gifts, their talents, their skills, their resources, their expertise. You know what I'm talking about. And how can you create something where that whole is greater than the sum of all the parts? We most likely have worked in organizations or communities, or maybe been in neighborhoods or in some level of organization where we all just felt like our own isolated, lonely little part. Of course, we've had that experience. And then every now and then in life, we run across an experience where we sense that sense of seamlessness, that sense of integration, that sense that someone else is just as important as I am, and my part is important, but so is someone else, so is someone else's voice. And boy, when we experience that, there's probably nothing better in terms of where we want to be. And if you've ever been on a winning team, I don't care what kind, it could be an athletic team, it could be a work team, it could be any kind of team. When you experience that, there's no greater experience. And by the way, what we're doing tonight is just kind of a snippet of some things that we do at a much greater level in terms of what we teach in our school of SOSSAS. And so anyway, that's part of it. Education and experiential wisdom come into play more in terms of people can take their experiential wisdom in their education and make this, good evening, ladies, good evening. And so that's a big part of it. Ability to delay gratification is a part of personal responsibility. Where are we at with that? I don't want you to answer that. It's a rhetorical question. But where are we at with our ability as a society, our ability as individuals, or just yourself in terms of delaying gratification? We can have a great conversation about what that looks like. Is it important all the time? Is it something that we can do easily? Is it something that doesn't require even discipline? It's just a conscious unconsciousness. Sometimes the older you get, maybe the better you get at it. Maybe you stop sweating the small stuff, so to speak. But that's part of this personal responsibility. Accountability to the common good, so to speak. It's not just about your self-interest. It's not just about what your agenda is. It's about something that's bigger than you. And we all know that when we're attached to that and we feel that in that sense where we're in that hole that's greater than some of the parts, that really is a great feeling. And it really is a great way to be. And how we devalue this trait in creative initiative, enhancing our capacities to enhance the collective is attached to all of that as well. So those are things that we believe are part of, well, we're asking the question, is personal responsibility a factor in terms of affordability? We're asking that question. You don't need to answer, but as we go through the conversations tonight, and you will be given a question later that's going to talk something about what you can do differently than maybe you're doing now. What can you declare as a possibility, if you will, in terms of making something more affordable in this community? All right, tenets of a community abundance. By the way, like I said before, we've all been through the scarcity to, not all of us, but a lot of us understand that kind of continuum, that spectrum of scarcity to abundance. There's a great book written by Peter Block and John McKnight about abundance, the awakening of neighborhoods and families in our communities. It's an amazing book. And so the word abundance was popular it was written 15, 20 years ago. And we know that we've been talking about the abundance mindset long before that. So anyway, we are enough. Part of the abundance thinking is that we are enough. And maybe we're more than enough. And so it's one of those things that, as I look out, one of the things we talk about in SOSSAS is that, one of the things I say is that for each and every, I see an unlimited capacity in each and every one of you. And that's what we believe our leaders ought to do in terms of saying to each person that you have gifts, you have something to offer others, you have something to offer me. And so we see those gifts, and we want you to kind of bring that potential of those gifts to life in this workplace or in this community. That's a big part of that. We have the capacity to provide what we need in the face of the messiness of the human condition. I'm not going to define a lot of things, a lot of terms here tonight. We all kind of get a sense that the human condition can be messy. And so what's that look like in terms of being enough in that kind of environment? We're organized. Here's one that's important, I think. We're organized more around cooperation than competition. I was with two young guys the other day, and and they both work for the same, it was a financial firm. And come on in. Hi, welcome. Are you here for Pints and Perspectives? All right. There's a seat here somewhere for you.
Way in the back.
Yeah, or you can have this one right here too. Let's see how brave he is. Let's see how brave he is. All right, here we go. And so I asked him, I says, is your culture competitive? Or is it competitive kind of cooperative, or is it cooperative? And they both gave me two different answers. One thought it was competitive, and the other thought it was, one thought it was cooperative. And they came from the same culture, they worked in the same office. So anyway, but we believe that in this abundancy mindset, that the collective is more important, frankly, than the individual. So there's another whole conversation there around where that pendulum should be swinging. The rights of one versus the rights of many. A great conversation to have in terms of what that looks like as we try to create a future that's different than what we have right now. We were born, this country was born, and other countries were too, on rugged individualism, the sense that I got to be the individual, the Marlboro Man, for those of you old enough to remember that commercial, and kind of that's the way we were in terms of how we were, the rugged individualism. Well, we believe cooperation and the collective are much more important. We're responsible for each other. We live with the reality of the human condition, and progress comes from our shared commitment. So those are some of the tenets that we're just going to kind of, in a very simple way, talk about. So anyway, last slide for me. I passed out a flyer, and we're having SOSSAS, the School of Statesmanship, Stewardship, and Service, are having a series of 5 classes on stewardship. Stewardship is a form of servant leadership. In my mind, I don't think it's ever been taught in a mass way in this community. This is how we led, though, within public safety. And this was the way that we did it. That has everything to do with everyone's voice counts, their thoughts matter, their humanness is valued, there's a distribution of power, there's a sense that everybody's part of the decision. We work and operate in the guise of partnerships where there's joint accountability for all the outcomes we have, not just the top people in the organization. And by the way, in order for us to work in partnership with the community, we had to have that within public safety in order for us to do that. A lot of police departments and fire departments operate very patriarchally in terms of top-down, in terms of command and control, in terms of what I say goes. And your voice really doesn't count. If I want your opinion, I'll give it to you kind of way of thinking. And so so we operated from this perspective of partnership, because I figured the only way that they could really work in partnership with the community is if they experienced within. And so we had to sequence that in terms of, it took almost 3 years for us to change cultures within our organization from one that was steeply patriarchal to one that was kind of formed in a partnership. For our officers and our firefighters to go into the community and say, okay, how do we work collectively? How can we be responsible for the outcomes together, so to speak? And so that's what we're going to be talking about a lot. These are the classes right here. They start September 10th. They go from 6 to 7:30. Many of you have been in those classes, and you come back from war. We're thankful for that. And so the stewardship models versus traditional models will be the first night. Partnership versus patriarchy. Here's one: rethinking the purpose of institutions. That sounds like a big topic, but I can guarantee you that we'll talk about it in ways that you've never heard about it before. The architecture of organizations, very important in terms of what the structure of organizations or communities need to look like to really operate in partnership. And the emotional expectations of stewardship. So, highly recommend these classes. They're $99 unless you've attended one of these, or unless you've attended a class in the past, and then in that case, they're what?
$69.
$69.
Yeah, $30 discount, but email me. And I get to introduce, any questions so far? I get to introduce Brian. So in 2005, I went to Colorado State University. I was in a department in design and merchandising. They had interior design in there, and I heard this name, Brian Dunbar, as a superstar. That's how he was referred to in the department at the time. He was teaching in interior design. I'm gonna get up here. And I didn't even know what the word sustainability meant. I read an article today. I'm not criticizing CU, but CU is establishing a center of sustainability education. But we were kind of doing it in 2005 because Brian Dunbar took it. He took it, and he had a dean that got behind him. And he did the research, he did the teaching, he switched over to construction management. He has a master's in architecture. He understands everything about built environment. Now, when you think about environment, that's how people are formed. That's what forms you, right? You could be in a bad environment and you will become a different person. You can be in this sustainable kind of positive environment and you will blossom, you will thrive. And so I'm just thrilled to have him here and to reconnect with him and to see his work, and you're gonna love what he's gonna talk about. And he was one of the first, how many know LEED in terms of building certificates, right? The bronze, silver, gold, platinum, all those things. He was one of the first. Imagine that, way back when. So, and we're both emeritus now, so anyway, but we still do our work. We do great things. So welcome, Brian, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, all of you. Thanks, Carol and Mike. Humbling. You say superstar, and then you say get up. Like, come on. No. I'm just one of us. I am one of us. But I want to thank you too for your the lead off tonight. I think so many of the things that you both talked about are genuinely important for when we talk about community and when we talk about leadership and when we talk about affordability. So that's really what I want to take us into. And so that's the topic that Mike and Carol presented to me and said, what do you think? Can you take us through that? Well, I'm not from this community, so I put a question mark, and I'm going to turn it over to you during the night to answer various questions about how affordable are we and how can we be a more affordable community. Those are the things I want to take you through. So our institute, as Carol said, part of Colorado State University, we're 31 years of being an institute where I get to hire students. Katie is one of our students. She lives in Longmont, so I said, hey, Katie, you want to come tonight? And I'm going to actually put her to work. And Stephanie, raise your hand, Stephanie, is a former student and a former intern of our institute. And we get to bring in students, hire students from so many different disciplines that might have something to do with the built environment, and then they get to work on real projects. Colorado State honors faculty members who work on real projects in the community in Colorado and in other places. That's what a state university often does in Colorado State. That's our mission. And what we've realized over time is that the built environment is about place, and places are about the people or the creatures that are part of those places. And we like to help communities figure out the potential of that place that could allow people and creatures to be healthy and thrive. And so we look for the uniqueness of every place, and we think about living systems. We're nature, right? So how do we fit with nature, and how do we care for nature, and are we symbiotic with nature? So that's what a living system thinks about, and we try to think of our built environments as something that coexists and maybe even supports the natural environments around it. And we're not here for all the answers. We're here to gain answers with community. When we work in various communities, we don't always have that understanding. I recently was in Pagosa Springs, and they asked for help for us to help the high school students find trades so that they didn't have to leave Pagosa Springs and serve their community better and help the business community. And we didn't have the answers, but instead we facilitated and brought out answers. And some of the best answers actually came from the high school students. So we like to include multi-generations in our work as possible. So, and I wanted to say too that I have gotten to work on some projects in Longmont. About 6 years ago, we helped Longmont with a climate action plan. 4 years ago, I got to help on the building at 9th and Main, the Lou Cardenas building. We helped to do the initial early design charrette to get all the teams and the owners and even the Cardenas family participate in coming up with ideas for that project. And if you've driven from the north and you see that great image, that mural of Lou Cardenas, I mean, what a beautiful thing for your community. And then 2 years ago, our institute got to help, and Katie, you helped on this, on the Bond Farm site that is to be developed for housing into the future. And we did a series of design charrettes to help the community with that. So have some experience with this great community. So I want to start by this, and Katie, you can start taking some answers from this. So what are the elements of affordability, of an affordable life? So I'm asking all of you to come up with an idea, one word or a few words. What are elements of affordability or of affordable life? Price, okay. Income.
Well, the legal definition is you're not spending more than 30% of your pre-tax income.
Okay, not spending more than 30% of your taxes. So there's a definition of how to make, pre-tax
Yeah, which is
income.
not
Yes.
the same as
Yes,
after
income, right. What else?
Personal expectations.
Okay, personal expectations for affordability. What kind of sectors care about affordability? Housing, I'm going to say housing to start with. That's a big one, right? What else? What are other sectors? Transportation.
Childcare.
Childcare, excellent.
Healthcare.
And healthcare, great.
Groceries.
Groceries and food.
Safety.
Safety, awesome. Taxes, okay.
Education.
Education, great. These are great answers.
Utilities.
Energy and utilities, good. Yeah, together.
water.
And water, let's put water with utilities also.
Entertainment.
Entertainment, great. Yeah, you're thinking about all these different sectors, great.
Access to amenities like close by grocery stores, and so they're not very distant from.
That makes it more affordable when you have that great access to various amenities. Okay, those are great answers. Katie got to write a lot of things down. Nice job. Nice job, Katie.
Education. Did I miss education? Oh, I did. They were coming fast.
So the second question is why is this topic important? Why is affordability for Longmont's future important? I'm going to ask you just to think about this for a couple minutes on your own. No. So it's a big why. And we're not going to answer that question right now. You have answered it. I just gave you a moment to answer it. So you know what some of this is. We're going to answer it throughout the evening. So what I'd like to do right now is take you to some other places in the world. Anybody been to Melbourne? Okay, a few of you have. You know, it's deemed the greatest city in the world. I've been there 3 times. We got to do some project work there, so it's really fun to have to go to to Australia, to this great city, and do work. But the thing that's great about this great city, to me, I'm just going to say, and I'll ask a couple of you that have been there, it's compact. The downtown is pretty compact, and yet it's clean. It feels safe. The Botanic Gardens are a walk away or easy public transport away. Where they play the Australian Open, look how close that is to downtown. You can walk or take public transportation there. That park where everyone is dancing was also a walk away from downtown or even part of downtown. So it's easy to get around, it feels safe, it's clean, and yet it's dense. Oh, great food. Really a cosmopolitan place that really has great food. And they say, if you don't have great food, you're not going to make it, so you better have great food. Anything else of those of you who've been there that you would call out? Yeah.
Well, the transportation is free. The public transportation is actually truly public. A lot of the housing, a huge portion of the housing is public housing. And education is also heavily subsidized, so if you want to go to the university, you can go to the university.
Yeah, and it's a great university and a great campus. And childcare is free childcare. Free childcare. Okay. And to me, one of the greatest things about Melbourne, and they say Melbourne, you gotta say Melbourne, you can't say Melbourne. I think because of the accent. Laneways, they don't, I mean, we call them alleys, but they call them laneways. That sounds a little better than an alley, right? And every laneway is different than the next. The one on the left, everybody and all the wedding parties go there and get their photographs taken in that alley. And this other one on the right, there's music playing, you can see in the foreground. There's 3 different coffee shops in this little laneway, and they're all doing fine. Each laneway is different. In fact, you go to Melbourne and you get a map of the laneways so you can go see them all. But guess what? That makes that downtown, that's the safety part of it. You don't feel like it's too dark or what's in there or is that scary or who might be in there, because it's all safe and clean and light and bright, all those things. Here's someone that I think of as a brilliant person that I got to work under. Paolo Soleri, born in Italy, trained as an architect in Italy, came to the United States, got to work under Frank Lloyd Wright in Arizona. And then at that time, Frank Lloyd Wright was coming up with this idea of a broad acre city, that everybody should have their own acre and they could do their own farming. And Paolo was like, you know what? I grew up in these hill towns in Italy where everything was concentrated and dense. So he didn't stay with Frank Lloyd Wright too long. Instead, he then created his own firm and came up with this concept. A city of the future. Architecture and ecology together. There's no roads. Everything is concentrated, brought together. All the land around it is saved for recreation and agriculture and exercise. And you might need transportation to go to another city, but maybe that would be public transportation. But everything is so close. And there's an example arcology being built in Arizona. I got to work on it. It's called Arco Santi. It's between Scottsdale and Sedona. And if you're ever along I-17, it's just a couple miles off the road. It's worth taking a tour of it. It's his idea of the city of the future. And working on that and coming up with understanding that philosophy was really a magnificent time in my life. In fact, changed the way I think. I think about what Paolo was bringing to the world. I feel like he was 100 or 200 years ahead of his time, and yet I think it's possible. And I think there's a lot to learn from an urban experiment like Arco Santi. And then I'll take you to Curitiba, a great town that has saved the history. And instead of a lot of downtown roads, there's a lot of downtown pedestrian spaces. The more of those, the better, right? You can't ignore the transportation, but make it safe and convenient for people to walk, and then they will do that. And they have a great public transportation system that has caught on around the world. In fact, in our Fort Collins, we now have the Max line that is very similar to this. It's a rapid transit that goes along our Mason Street parallel to our College Avenue, where you can quickly get on the bus every 10 minutes. And you either don't pay or you quickly pay before you get on. So there's a simple system like that. And then a couple other little things about Curitiba. As you can read, there's a tree planting that continues. They realize that places that have trees are easier to be around on those hot summer days, and it cools the city, and it allows for less utility costs when you do all of those kinds of things. And then the recycling program is quite successful, and it employs people that need employment, that have a lower income. And how about this? Every bag of trash that somebody collects, a bag of groceries is given, or a way for you to buy your groceries. So some pretty great things, and the sheep are there cutting the grass. A little better pollution, right? A little less pollution. And there's a lot of other cities. I'm not going to take the time to talk about, but why did I put Sioux Falls up there? Why? That's a place I get to do some work. And if you would have seen the transformation of both Sioux Falls and St. Petersburg, Florida, in the last 15 years, you'd say, this is what a great downtown is. So Sioux Falls was abandoned 15 years ago. Nobody was downtown. It was all about the shopping malls or going to Minneapolis or somewhere else. But now that downtown is thriving because they put housing down there. They have taken some of the parking lots and turned them into parks. Hey, how about that? Parking into parks. And there's thriving businesses and restaurants and places to go, and an easy walk to the downtown, the park. The park along the river, Sioux Falls, is really a beautiful place to go. St. Petersburg, same way. It was abandoned. There was nobody down there. Abandoned shops, abandoned buildings, and now it couldn't be more thriving. Why? They built housing in the downtown. They made it safe for bikes. 15 years ago, when I was there teaching about LEED and other things, they laughed when I said, oh, you could be like some of the towns in Colorado. And they're like, you're in La La Land. We don't know what you're talking about. Well, now they have, it's not because of what I said, they just have transformed that city. They have, people are walking, people are biking safely. There's young people in the downtown. They've opened themselves up to the waterway. It's really just a great experience. You can think of other places. Anybody come up with one real quick, that a town that is a good example of a town that is thriving and in that way can be thought of as more affordable? Louisville. Okay, yeah, a couple people have said that in the past. I agree. That is one of those places that you just want to be downtown. It's alive.
Chattanooga.
Okay, Chattanooga has done some great things. And so I want to take you into Longmont. All right, Katie, you get to get up again. What about Longmont? I want to start out with the positive. Like, what is helping affordable and success in Longmont?
Green spaces.
The green spaces. You have abundance of parks, but you have some great parks.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Trees everywhere.
Okay, you got great foliage and trees.
Not
really like a succinct answer, but in terms of affordability, just like a willingness to even talk about it as opposed to setting it off to the
Yeah, an
like people
openness.
actually caring
Yeah.
and feeling like they can engage and not just
Awesome.
leave it as the elephant in the
You're saying a few things. So there's a care, a community care about that, and there's that engagement. You feel like you can engage. Forums like this allow for great engagement. What else?
Some of the smaller neighborhoods, like on my street, children play in the middle of the street.
So-
People
so-
say,
I'm going to give this to you. Say that.
in some of the neighborhoods, like on my street where I live, children actually play on the streets, which is really nice.
Yeah. So safe neighborhoods and the feeling of neighborhoods. And that allows for that multi-generation and what we remember when we were younger, when ideally we had those safe places to play. Is there a hand in the back?
Walkable downtown.
And walkable downtown has gotten better and better, right? What else?
We have a strong regenerative farming community, a strong farmers market.
Okay, farmers market and regenerative agriculture nearby, and appreciation for that.
Left-hand brewing.
Awesome. Eric, did you glance that? Left hand? She said left hand brewing.
We found there's a lot of amenities, like whether it's festivals, like so there's a lot of festivals here, or the rec center, the museum. There's a lot of free events and low cost.
Nice. I always feel like a great city is one where you feel like as a resident, there's way more to do than you can do. Like there's so many different opportunities and you just can't take them all in and you miss out on some things. You really can't. Yeah. What was that?
Local businesses.
Local businesses that you can support. The business owners are often in town.
The resurgence of like high density building where
Ah.
there's businesses and
Yeah.
housing.
And it wasn't that way 20 years ago, right? I mean, I remember when Longmont had a couple flea markets downtown and a lot of abandoned buildings, and you looked at it and said, this could be a great downtown, and now I think it is. All right, I want to keep us moving again. So my next question, what else would help to make it even more healthy and more affordable? I'm just going to take a few minutes because we're going to really dive into this topic. Yeah,
A public bank,
public banking. Okay.
a county-wide public bank, working on the laws in Colorado that have been put in place by the banking cartel so that you can't have public banks. That would make it affordable here.
Okay.
It could be like South Dakota.
Could be like what?
South
It could be
Dakota.
like North Dakota.
North Dakota and I think South Dakota is similar, yeah.
A coalition that would help empty nesters here with young people, so that those of us who have these empty bedrooms could rent, come together.
Awesome. That is great. Great. Taylor.
Related to the last comment, boarding homes.
Boarding homes.
Or freedom to do what you need to do.
Freedom to do what you need to. Say a little more.
So meaning, like my parents need to downsize.
Okay.
But there's nothing to downsize to, so
Okay.
what they need to do is maybe convert their home.
Awesome.
But the freedom to
Yeah.
not allow that is complicated.
Okay. It's not as easy as it could be. Yeah.
So,
Did you have an idea?
I would say public land trusts and more building by Longmont Housing Authority.
Okay.
Publicly financed housing.
Publicly financed housing and the housing authority,
Yeah.
more opportunities there. A couple more ideas.
Yeah, Brent. Yeah, before I left the city, a friend of mine and I walked. Paula walked with some of us sometimes as well. We walked 230 different neighborhoods. Most of them were high-density apartment complexes, mobile home parks. And I have to tell you, we all thought that in every neighborhood there was a welcome sign at its edge. And this level of hospitality that's here in this community is much higher than what I think people give it credit for. So I just want to point that out. Sometimes goes unnoticed as the bad news makes the front page, but there's a lot of that in this community.
Nice, thanks, Mike. And by the way, thanks for all your public service. Another hand up, yeah.
The neighborhood groups association and let's see what else. Tool sharing.
Tool sharing. So
we
yeah.
want this or we have this?
I think she's looking for more of that.
More.
More of those opportunities.
Well, I think the neighborhood groups, only, I believe, 2/3 of the neighborhoods have a group, and I think that we could have, I think there's about 70 or something, and there could be another 30 more.
Awesome. You're a good thinker. You're running for public office?
I feel like our taxes are way too high, and on necessities like groceries, it can be lowered, and there's room for improvement there.
Okay. All right, so lower the taxes. Or even eliminate the food tax. Okay. We are going to go way more into some of these ideas, and I'm about to take you there. But before I take you there, I'm going to talk about just housing for a second. It's something that our institute gets to deal with. It's built environment, and these are just some strategies I'm listing out. Just kind of a short list of strategies. I'm not going to go through all of them, but if affordable housing could use more modular housing or other building techniques to make it less expensive. Their 3D printing is coming to the housing industry, and it's maybe not fully there yet, but it's coming, and I think that's going to really help us in terms of affordability. And the idea of ADUs, which I know Longmont is embracing, that's certainly going to help. Tiny homes and townhomes also help. My institute has come up with this new program called Lifelong Homes and Lifelong Communities. I have some information on it that I'm happy to give you as you leave tonight if you're interested. But we feel like, you've heard of blue zones, where people more often live to 100 and in a healthy way. We feel like we can create blue zones, and so we've taken some of their research and put it into guiding developers and builders on how to create lifelong homes and lifelong communities. And then you have a local group called Launch. In fact, Drew is, raise your hand, Drew, is the president of Launch. If you're interested in learning more about that, Dan and Drew are right here. They're part of that organization, as John and a few others are as well. And it's about bringing more housing to, and options for housing to Longmont. And then, let me say this last one, the integrated process is something that we have learned through our institute, that any time you work on a project, no one of us is as smart as all of us. Think about that. And that's why we're tonight, I'm calling on you to bring out your ideas. No one of us is as smart as all of us. And we propose to always work in that collaborative way when we work on a project. I don't have all the answers, and you don't have all the answers, but collectively, put together a good team, we have the answers. All right, so now you'll see that there's numbers on the wall. It looks like number 7 is falling a little bit there. Melinda, if you're able to help get that one back up. All right. So what I've done, and there's a 5 back there by Taylor, and you can see the numbers on the wall. What I'm asking you to do is, we're going to go like this. Put a 1 here, put a 2 here, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, yeah, a 7, and that's what we're going to go with for now. And we might have some other numbers, but if you're in this area number 1, I'd like you to maybe turn around with the 2 people behind you and you are going to talk about affordability related to education. And if you just really don't like that topic, you can move yourself to another room. And then I'm going to ask the same thing. Groups of 4 or 5 really work well in this sort of format. If you're 3, that's okay. If you really want to be 6, that's okay. But 4 or 5. And so what I'm asking then is, we have 4 people or 5 or 6 people here. You're going to deal with entertainment. And again, if you don't want that topic, you go somewhere else. We're going to have about 28 minutes to do this. And here's what I'd like. I'd like somebody in the group to write down the ideas. And if you need something to write with, we have a few things. But maybe somebody in your group has something they can write with. And also, we're going to ask you to report out. So whoever's writing might be the one to report out, unless you write really well and you can hand it to somebody else and they can report out. We had a question or a thought? Some people might need a little break, and feel free to take a bio break, but I'm going to ask you to either get started and remember that somebody else is going to come into the conversation.
Ryan, how much time do we have?
We have 28 minutes. All right, I'm going to now ask you to end your conversations. Obviously some great conversations. Hopefully every group knows who is going to be the spokesperson for that group. We're going to do a quick report out, but I want to hear the top ideas. So do you have 2, 3, or 4 ideas in your group? And I'm going to ask for the conversations to stop so we can all hear. And do we have that other mic? Another microphone, maybe?
Here we got one here. You need to run around with it, I will.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to put Mike to work. All right. So I'm going to ask to start with the child care in the back. So, never mind. Number 3. No, we're going to go to health. Was it health care? Transportation. All right, we'll start with transportation.
All right. Okay.
Stay in your groups, please.
I'll give you the top 3. Number 1, create more collaboration between housing developers and traffic planners. And then as new developments are happening. I'm Chelsea. Hello. Hello. Nice to see you all. So create more collaboration there, and then taking that a step further, developers should need to own the infrastructure needed to support their housing developments when new developments are going in. Secondly, look into studies on the real needs of people for public transportation, where people are really needing to go on public transportation, and then build the infrastructure to support that, not just bus routes, but bus routes, park and rides, bike shares, get creative with what people need based on those studies. Partner with businesses to do things like create stipends for commuters to use public transport, things to incentivize increasing usage there to help with funding. And then last thing is advocate for what already exists. There was a quote in our group that no one knows where the buses go. So just to help publicize what's already out there.
That is so good, Chelsea. All right, who came up with that idea? Who came up with that idea? Who said that? Okay. See me at the end. I have a prize for you. That's awesome. All right, yeah. Good hands for that.
Okay, who's next?
All right. So now we will. Are you guys ready in the back? So childcare.
My name is Steve. Our topic was child care, also known as raising other people's kids. So we started with the idea of older people caring for kids, like senior citizens, who, and in some cases, senior citizens would be interested in taking care of kids. In some cases, maybe not so much. Liability is an obstacle, the cost of insurance. I mean, everybody that has raised a kid knows about the cost of childcare. So we mentioned things that are working right now, like Head Start, some childcare businesses. The YMCA does it, and Scott back here came up with Grandma Marge, which is your mom, right? Okay, your mom, and. So Grandma Marge is a fixture in the community. So really, I think we had a multi-answer, for like, you've got your options of how you're going to do this. I think the big question is who pays for it and what level of skill do we need, because who's willing to bring their kid in at 8 a.m., drop them off, and hope that they get them back in the same condition 8 hours later? And I think what ties in along with that is also community engagement.
Okay. Or Scott can say.
Scott, you want to take over for a minute? Step up here, man.
Scott Stewart. Evening, everybody. Childcare. The general idea is that we want to get beyond warehousing children in buildings. How do you create a better community that is more engaged? Maybe there's a couple of professionals, 1, 2 professionals or whatever, but they're taking on more kids than 2 people can handle. How do we create an aging population, which is in Longmont, and get them more engaged with multiple child care centers within their communities, within their immediate communities? And I'm not talking about grandma having, a 5-day-a-week job. I'm talking about grandma going on Tuesdays and her friend going on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And how do we spread the love? And many of the seniors don't actually need to get paid. I think the payment comes to the qualified people that are running it, and then yes, sometimes those qualified people are going to be babysitting the older people too. But I'm a big believer in community, and if we can create more engagement and not be afraid of our neighbors and say hi to our neighbors and get our neighbors involved and involved in our kids' lives, it's really nice to know your neighbors, even if they're older or they're younger.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, one more?
Yeah, Jay, you seem to have a lot of input here.
So what we're trying to do is, I did something simple for my mother. I built her a library in front of her house. It's if you ever go by 5th and Pratt, there's a barrel. It's a whiskey barrel that has a old refrigerator on it, and it's got lollipops, it's got dog treats, it's got books in it, what have you. It has become a hub for the community. My mom sits on her front porch. She knows her neighbors for 3 blocks around.
That is
Dog stop. You see my mom? Yeah. Her name is Marge. Say hi to her. It's the best gift I ever gave her. And I think it's the best thing I've ever done for her and her community. She knows her neighbors now. And we've got little kids that come up and sit on the front porch with her. And it's a beautiful thing. Bottom line, how do we build a better community?
Yeah. You're doing it. You're doing it. Thank you, Scott. That's awesome.
Thanks to Steve and Scott. Who's next?
Let's go up to this group here. Did you guys deal with education? Okay.
Okay.
Scott, see me at the end.
All right, I'm Dave Hodges. This is going to be a bit of a mess because I usually just, when I take notes, I throw everything around and then I go back and organize it. So I'll do my best to sum, but I'd like to preface by saying we had some awesome ideas in the group. I think the first one we talked about was in terms of education and affordability. It wasn't always a direct correlation because oftentimes when you have a great school district, a lot of people want to move there, and then that creates some scarcity and that increases prices. So one of our solutions was that having teachers live in that area by taking some of that tax revenue for all the people coming there to make it more affordable for those teachers to live in the community. We also, but the next point, I think the second one, sorry, the And the next one was a correlation between extracurricular activities and success in school. So in terms of affordability, we talked about maybe city subsidies for those programs, and also a scoring system, a healthy competition between schools where they had not only testing scores, but a holistic type scoring where the after-school programs were also important. And I think the other part wasn't necessarily related to affordability, but the parents' involvement and the holistic part of education, not just teachers dictating to kids, but everyone or people in the community involved in the kids' education. And again, it doesn't necessarily relate to affordability, but that part about people wanting to be there.
Beautiful.
Yes, that is affordability.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Give a big hand for this group.
Great, thanks. All right, let's go to food.
Food. Who's our speaker?
I recorded. I took notes. I took notes. It was a really lively discussion. I think we got way past food. But we did talk about having more smaller, local, more independent, kind of entrepreneurial ways, groceries. We talked about Pantry Market in the past for all of us that remember Pantry Market, and just an ability to get to it. And the city, maybe instead of the big box and the big corporate subsidies, figuring out something around entrepreneurship for specialty stores. And we all talked about New Zealand and living in Europe and how you go to the cheese shop and the bread shop and all those things. We felt like there needed to be a little more transparency around how deals are made. Where do the taxes come from with food? There was a ballot initiative that asked, I guess it didn't go through. Yes? No? On food? On taxes? Was there something around taxes and food? Oh, she left. There were requests, but it was attached to some of the money or bond. A little more transparency from the city, right, around that, okay? Or maybe I don't understand. Just more support for entrepreneurs, and maybe that food is a human right. So if you were talking about food that's kind of near expiration, how does it get easier out to the public, and how do we make that available? And we did talk about co-ops. We talked about farmers markets, and that it's a problem because it's a low margin and it's a high spoilage commodity.
And yet that idea of before it's spoiled, does it have a use or an end use before it is spoiled?
I'm not in that group, but the Hour Center disperses a lot of exactly that.
Great.
That's what they do. They're getting stuff that's close or still is beyond but still safe, and they're sending it out to people that need it.
Yeah.
Say the name again, Eric. It's called
Everyone in
Hour Center.
I shop at King Soopers at 6:30 a.m. and they put an announcement out that the community food share is in the back.
Oh, nice.
So all departments are to get their food to
That's
the back.
so good.
I'm not part of the organization or anything, but there is the Longmont Food Rescue does a lot of cool stuff like that, where they get produce that's like right about to expire, and they do pop-up farmers markets in the parks to get it to be more accessible to people who might not be able to drive to farmers market on Friday morning. And then I will just say, like, I don't know if they all do it, but I used to work at Starbucks, and Starbucks had the same thing, where anything that was going to be bad, like 2 days out, they would give it to the Hour Center or other places. So there is some trying to reduce the spoilage.
Carol, was there just one King Soopers that does what you're saying?
Well, that's what I just hear the announcement. When
Which King Soopers? I have a question.
the one on Pace. But I think they probably all do it. Yeah.
All sorts of drop places.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of places.
Okay, and we really want ADU tiny houses on bigger lots. But that wasn't.
Okay, well, we'll get to hear that, but let's go to energy and utilities.
Thank you, group. Food group.
Hey, my name is Ross. So for utilities, one of the big things that we noticed was that we have public utilities in Longmont, and they are excellent. Shout out Nextlight. It is a great thing that Longmont has that not a lot of other communities have. For specifically Nextlight, we were thinking that they could maybe start implementing something like COPE or heating utilities. That's something that they could do to improve affordability for other energy use cases. The big thing that we landed on was building efficiency. So, how's your insulation? How are your windows? What standards are we requiring for new construction? But also, how do we get older structures retrofitted to modern standards, and how do we make sure that people know that these programs, or know that programs exist for that, because they oftentimes do, and how do we make sure that there's not stigma attached to those, using those programs. Personally, I've also noticed that, when I've lived in an apartment or a townhome, I've had lower bills than when I lived in a single-family house. And then we talked a little bit about water as well, and we were saying, xeriscaping, wildflower gardens, things like that. Cutting down on turf grass is a great way to reduce water usage in the community. And our parks might be an opportunity to make a change away from just large swaths of turf grass by default.
Right. Yeah, the best parks are doing that, certainly having native areas as well as play areas.
And allowing new developments to not have turf grass.
What?
Current city
Yes,
code,
some cities.
the current city code in Longmont. My wife's a landscape designer, and we can't hear you. Microphone, Mike.
So my wife's a landscape designer here in town, and she's really pushing for more ability to do low water use designs, and we're not talking swaths of rock. Rock is not xeriscaping. That is zero-scaping. It's awful. It's a joke. It's what people default to. It's awful. But what we need to do is the way the city code is written. You cannot meet their plant coverage requirements with individual plants like native grasses, because those don't count. You can't count grasses like feather reed grass does not count as a shrub because it's a grass. So you can't count those towards your plant count, and you can't count it towards your coverage. And she was recently doing a very big project for Habitat for Humanity and could not meet the plant coverage requirement without going to sod. And the city was like, "Oh, sorry." And so she.
Yeah, I think we have to again look at example cities, and there are other cities are making that change. I encourage Longmont to get active with that change. It really needs to. Yeah, for new builds. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, now healthcare. Healthcare. Anybody work on that? No.
We talked about it. We talked about it.
I did.
We talked about it.
Did you?
Yeah.
What'd you come up with?
So, here's an idea. So, what I know of from working over the fire service is that there's a lot of folks in this community that don't have any kind of wherewithal to afford health insurance or don't have any health insurance. And that there are, the fire department's not going to like me for this one, but that's okay. What else was new on that one? But on the other hand, there are 6 fire stations in this community. We have close to 40 paramedics, and every one of them's an EMT. And we could open up every one of our fire stations to provide a certain level of medical care for those people who want to come in and get a lot of medical checks because they have a lot of equipment to do blood pressure, EKGs, a lot of monitoring along those lines. They can change bandages, work on prescriptions, do lots of different checks, could work closely with hospitals. The other part of this was community-based medicine that we did do, and that was we brought all the hospitals, all the clinics, and all of the dock and boxes places that are around town, brought as many of them that wanted to come together, and we decided how can we take care of those folks in this community that can't take care of themselves from an insurance purpose-wise, so that the heavy load for uninsured people didn't show up at one of the two emergency departments. And there were a lot of different clinics and different folks that changed their hours and did different things in order to kind of share that kind of responsibility. And so there's a community medicine kind of model that has yet to come to life in this community that can really save a lot of money, and because every time someone goes to the hospital emergency department doesn't have insurance, someone else pays for it, folks. And so what else can we do? And so with all that great resource from the fire service and all the potential integration of a lot of different medical facilities, you'd be shocked at how many medical facilities there are in this community, small ones and large ones, that could come together and work that whole that's greater than a sum of the part kind of mindset and provide a much greater level of health care to this community, especially for those who don't have it or have minimal amounts or just catastrophic insurance.
Mike, thank you so much. You're bringing up so many important topics. I want to mention again something that we're working on at CSU with the lifelong homes and communities. The hardest part is health care to the community, and yet it's something we're working on. To be a lifelong community, you have to have that connection to health care. So thank you for emphasizing that.
Who's next?
We have two more, and while the last two are going, I want you to start thinking about the answer to this question. We have entertainment group. Okay.
Here we go. Give your name and tell your story.
Hi, I'm Melanie, and my family just moved to Longmont a year ago, and we're loving it, and there's so much to do and so many good things, so thank you for having us. Thank you. So one thing I thought we could do better, there was like all kinds of outdoor festivals and music and everything, but I did drive up to Fort Collins and went to like an outdoor theater play, and it was really fantastic and enjoyable. And it's in the park, like at an amphitheater. People bring in their chairs and things, and they had some nights, things aren't free, but that's fine. It was great quality theater, but they had some nights where it was pay what you can for the community, or it was rewarding teachers and things, and I thought that was wonderful. Really enjoyed it and would love to see some of that closer. And yes, while Main Street is walkable and some great restaurants and things to do, it could just even continue to get better, and like the side streets and things. It's not like Pearl Street yet in Boulder or anything, and don't know we can reroute traffic or things, but if that can just continue to get better. And for families and everything, and just even the adult community, the rec centers are great here, but for the size of the population, probably having another rec center would improve, just for it's not overcrowding and things. And just even outdoor, like public accessibility to some recreation courts, whether it be pickleball, basketball, some nice courts and things for people to do, that would be helpful. And just even increase awareness of events that are going on. There's so much going on every night of the week in Longmont, which is great, and even partnerships like these. It's so fun to be able to come and learn and enjoy community and beer, and or whether it's the trivia nights, and there's just a lot going on. It's just even if there's one more central place, and just publicizing the awareness of events.
Awesome, great ideas. You reminded me that Curitiba, the place in Brazil I mentioned, they close some of the streets on Sundays in the downtown, 2 cars, and so it becomes open streets. And we've recently tried that the last couple of years in Fort Collins. I don't know if Longmont has tried that, but on a Sunday, different areas of town are closed in the summer so that you can bike, and different booths and things are set up, food trucks and so on. It really is a great thing.
Who's last?
Our last one is housing.
Here we go.
John.
John.
My name's John. We have a couple of bullet points I'll go over and dive into some detail, and we feel that we need it. Quickly, the 4 bullet points. More housing variety across all income types. That would require some rezoning and legalizing them. Simplify our building codes. This one may be a little bit more dramatic, but a public comment period during the comprehensive review, and then reduce the number of reviews that we have for construction in between those periods so that we don't just stop all development through endless meetings. And then construction defect reform paired with better inspections. I've lived through this twice where the builder built things terribly wrong, passed all the inspections, and then we have to go back and go after the builder in order to get things repaired. To expand on the more housing types. In the United States, we used to have a whole bunch of different houses. We used to have 3-story tall apartment buildings. Those are largely illegal in America now. Duplexes, quadplexes, triplexes, those are all largely illegal in America. We should legalize them like Longmont. We should legalize people being allowed to take, if they have a large home and they want to age in place, converting that to a duplex. My parents are very fortunate. They're going to come here next summer and spend 3 months, and they're going to be splitting half of a house somewhere in Longmont with a couple who divided their house in 2. Did I miss anything? Did I cover it pretty well? I think that covers the big topics.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Give me a hand. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we're gonna honor your time tonight, but before it's almost 8 o'clock, and we're not gonna probably have time to go through all of this. This is a very important question, and maybe in my opinion, one of the more important questions we can answer for ourselves. What can you do personally? So we're gonna have to save this for another time, but I do want to give a round of applause to Brian, our speaker tonight, who brought all this to us. Thank you all very much. We're going
and
to
Katie. Thank you, Katie.
Katie, yes, thank you, Katie. Thank you. And so, anyway, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. Next, in 2 weeks from tonight, same place, same time, we're going to have transportation, another non-controversial issue in terms of how that plays out. And infrastructure. Thank you, Eric. And so, come ready, come thirsty. Okay, good evening and drive safely, folks.
Thank you.